How do you pronounce?
Iishana.
Iishana.
Yes, Iishana Artra. Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. So I'm a little unclear on how much time I have. I was planning for
Probably
15
not as much
minutes.
as you hoped for, but do go ahead.
Okay.
You
So
have her testimony in your. Yep, I got it.
yes. Okay. Good. So first of all, thank you so much, Chair Cummings, who I think is not in the room at the moment, and members of the committee for hearing my testimony today. I am Iishana Artra. I'm with EMF Safety for Vermont, and I'm an EMF testing professional. EMF stands for electromagnetic fields. I've lived in Vermont for 20 years, and I am here to testify on Bill, do I say H513? H513. Winston Churchill said one of my very favorite quotes. He said, "Healthy citizens are the greatest asset any country can have." And some things never change. That's why I'm here today. I'd like to begin by inviting the committee to consider, while I present some facts, the precautionary principle, which is applied in biotechnology and fields that deal with chemical pollutants or radiation exposure, food safety. And essentially the principle is this: if there is a threat that's uncertain, then some kind of action is mandatory. While we, EMF Safety for Vermont, and have about 100, 150 people as well involved, we do strongly agree with the intent of Bill 513. I want to make that very clear, to bring broadband service to all Vermonters. But Section 19, and I'm sorry I left the one out in the title of my comment here, Section 19 is problematic from a public health perspective.
You need, as passed by House.
Excuse me?
Is this a need, as passed by House?
Yes, it is, yes. So why is it a problem? Well, if we look at the FCC's webpage for its one-touch make-ready acceleration plan, its wireless acceleration plan, they title their webpage, let's see here, they title it FCC facilitates wireless and infrastructure deployment of 5G. So on the FCC's website, they are making explicit that the FCC one-touch make-ready, and they call it a regime, the one-touch make-ready regime is in order to streamline the deployment of ubiquitous wireless, especially 5G. This means wireless everywhere, and from a public health perspective, this means no one could opt out in a public space. Section 19 directs the Public Utilities Commission to adopt one-touch make-ready policies and to change its rule 3.700 to, quote, further the state's interest in ubiquitous deployment of mobile telecommunications. That's on page 26. So this is especially troublesome to us, given the fact that the FCC, as you've heard before, has no safety studies for 5G. They disclosed that to Senator Blumenthal of Connecticut in video testimony. They have no safety studies for 5G.
Can I just interject?
Sure.
Let you know, the way our bills come to us, when you see language that's not underlined,
Yeah.
which is the language you're referencing, for instance, that's current law.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're asking would be a change in current law.
Yes.
If we do nothing with this bill, that stands, that's the law.
Right.
So just want you to understand, the way we would think of it is we're not making a change to that. So your complaint, as I'm understanding it, is with the current law.
Mm-hmm. Yes, this bill, would that, so it's Bill 513 would be the current law?
No.
What would the current law be?
So anything that's not underlined, so
Yeah.
the underlined is the new language that's been proposed by the House.
Okay,
This is already in statute.
okay, so then,
Ask a while.
yes, so section 19, what is the change in section 19?
Anything that's underlined.
You may not have the
So-
same version. we
Yeah,
have.
right,
So it
that would be
does-
helpful.
So if you want to look at this,
Sure,
that
thank you.
is section 19. Those are
Okay,
the things that are
excellent.
underlined.
We have issues. I can just tell by looking at it. Excellent, thank you very much, I appreciate that. So, okay, so, back up breath a little bit here.
Thank you, Senator Brock.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Class activity right
Yeah, we're team,
Yes.
team finance here.
So one-touch make-ready policies for pole attachments, that's underlined, that would be a change.
That would be a change.
And
exactly.
that is what I was referencing with the FCC.
Okay.
That's their streamlining the deployment of 5G. And what's really interesting to us is they've titled their acceleration plan, Accelerating Wireless Broadband Deployment by Removing Barriers to Infrastructure Investment, Removing Barriers. Now, let's see.
Iishana, did you send us the link to that FCC website, or is that in your packet?
When I did my edits, I accidentally deleted it, but I wrote down the footnote here, and I can absolutely
Yeah, give it to me.
provide, I
That'd be
apologize
great.
for that, yeah. That was one of the most important footnotes, too. So, the CTIA has been issuing comments to the Public Utility Commission about changes to Rule 3.700. And in their communications, I'm going to quote them, they talk about 5G. They say, quote, "The wireless industry is in the midst of deploying advanced wireless technologies, including 5G networks, and improvements to the Commission's pole attachment rules will promote these wireless deployments." I'd also like to add that this isn't a conversation I've heard anyone bring up, but a topic, but Vermont has exempt status. We are a certified state. We're certified to regulate our own pole attachments, which is a luxury that only 20 states in the United States have. And that acceleration plan, stated in it, is the fact that we're exempt. So I just wanted to pass that along, but it's a fine point I didn't know if you were aware of. We are not required to implement the one-touch make-ready plan, if I'm understanding that correctly.
So what we would,
So,
you're saying we're not preempted in that area, is that what you're saying?
Right.
Suggesting.
okay, I don't know what the preempt.
Well, we regulate our own rules, but we do.
So
Because
we're not required to implement the federal requirement, there's an exemption. And do you know why the exemption exists?
We are a certified state, so I have.
What does that mean?
That means we can regulate our own pole attachments, set fees, conditions, and there's a third category. And I can send you, I have the document that shows us on the list with the federal government as a certified state, and it even explains what that means.
it's probably because we regulate, right? Not the-
Yeah, because I think we have that rule, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that rule is what Section 19 is proposing we change, so that we get into lockstep with the FCC's plan, which is based on no standards for 5G. And the standards that they do have are based in 1992 and 1989. 1986 and 1992 studies. That's it. They haven't updated them. So, let's see, moving on. I know that you have a copy of this, and I hope that you'll take a moment, if you have a chance, to really read through this. I'm just going to try to pull out some highlights. I'm just going to read this bullet list of why this is a problem. The rule changes that are proposed by Bill 513, H 513, would mean small cell antennas could be attached to poles everywhere throughout Vermont. Now, this is problematic in at least 5 ways. 5G is untested for public safety, as it uses an untested man-made form of pulsed radio wave radiation at frequencies far higher than any we've been exposed to thus far. It's not proven safe. Cellular antennas have been associated with cardiovascular, endocrine, nervous system, and neuropsychiatric suffering. A growing population is becoming symptomatic with increasing cumulative exposure to man-made radio wave radiation. That includes children and adults. And to achieve reliability, this is very interesting for Vermont, trees need to be cut for 5G's millimeter waves to have a clear line of sight. we have a quote in this comment from the chief engineer of Samsung, stating very clearly that wet leaves, icy leaves, snow-laden leaves, and dense trees will block 5G millimeter waves, and that they would have to be cut. Or hacked, trimmed. So we have concerns in the areas of public safety, tree loss and damage, and decreased property values. If anyone assumes the FCC has our back, I want to offer two facts. The FCC has been shown to be a captured agency, and its exposure limits have not been updated since 1996.
Captured agencies.
Yeah, there's a revolving door of executives. So you have telecom executives going into the FCC executives. It's dizzying. Yes, and that's a mainstream knowledge now. Yeah. You're welcome. So what I'd like to show you as a visual aid is the FCC's 2013 reassessment that was ordered by the Government Office of Accountability. And this is their assessment that contains their rationale for the standards. And then we have the studies. And these are summaries of the studies. Upside down. Over 2,000 studies. They're international, they're independent, they're evidence-based, and they all show, when you add them all up together, harm from pulse radio frequency radiation. The FCC made a very interesting statement that, again, nobody has talked about, and I couldn't believe it when I stumbled onto it, and you'll find it very interesting. I put a copy of it in your packet. Page 73. So this is in the FCC's own words. In 2013, they said, quote, "We recognize that a great deal of scientific research has been completed in recent years, and new research is currently underway, warranting a comprehensive examination of FCC limits and policies. Moreover, the ubiquity of device adoption, as well as advancements in technology and developments in the international standards, warrant an inquiry to determine whether our general regulations and policies limiting human exposure to RF radiation are still appropriately drawn." End quote. So I'm going to offer that no changes have been made since this 2013 statement 6 years ago by the FCC, where it acknowledged that its limits were in need of an inquiry. And yet 5G is being promulgated by the FCC, encouraging us to deploy it ubiquitously. I'd also like to include Tom Wheeler, the former chairman of the FCC, his warning that he issued at a press conference about 5G. He said, quote, "Stay out of the way," end quote. Then he said, quote, "Turning innovators loose is far preferable to letting committees and regulators define the future. We won't wait for the standards," end quote. And indeed, they have not. We know now, based on independent, evidence-based, peer-reviewed, published international research that dates back to 1990, and before that, we have a bibliography of 3,700 associations of effects with radio frequency radiation made by the Naval Medical Research Command. And that's also in your packet. They've documented 100 effects of radio frequency radiation. They're widespread, they go throughout the body. They involve cardiovascular, endocrine, nervous system, and neuropsychiatric suffering. Cancer, diabetes, depression, anxiety, resistance to antibiotics, disorientation, tinnitus, just a few of the known symptoms. You may also, you'll see too, a picture in your packet of the plastic mannequin that the FCC uses to base its safety guidelines on. It's not a biological entity, and it's based on a body size and dimension that is about 3% of the population, not children. Again, it's not biological. Okay. So then we have the bioinitiative report, which is biological, based on human beings and animals. I'll just see. I'd like to let you know about recent developments in the study of cancer. Again, this has become mainstream. It really hit the press this year when these findings were released. Very large studies released their findings in 2018, and they corroborated one another. One is from Italy, one's from America. The United States National Toxicology Program, $25 million, they performed a cell phone study. Well, in Italy, there was the largest animal study of cell tower exposure. They both found heart and brain cancer. And this was in a study of rats, which is one of the very common ways we study cancer in humans. And that's a corroboration of cancer.
We're not saying we don't
Yeah.
believe people.
Okay.
We just don't have opinions.
Well,
And someone smarter than us is gonna have to
yeah.
deal with it somewhere. I don't wanna cut you off, but
Well, my suggestion would be for section 19, for as long as the precautionary principle is something that has proven successful for industries that deal with toxins and pollutants and poisons. The precautionary principle is something for the committee to consider.
Yeah, question.
Yeah.
Has any other nation instituted any controls, limits, or restrictions on deployment of radio frequency?
Yes, they
Oh,
have.
and under what circumstances?
There's a list, I don't know by heart. There's a list in your packet of,
Yeah, so page 15.
Thank you. thank you. And, and I would be happy to get you more information as well. So given these facts, and also I'd like to say too, if you get a chance, we were here last Thursday, and 11 people from the public spoke, including 5 of us, about their experience with radio frequency, radiation sensitivity, and there was also expert statements. And that's on video. It's the April 18th State House meeting. You can see that on YouTube. So I'll just close by saying fiber is more reliable than wireless. We know that. We have options. We are a certified state. We are exempt from the wireless acceleration plan. And so fiber is more reliable than wireless. It conveys clear signals much further distances than wireless does, and it has less environmental and aesthetic impact. It has no radiation. Cellular antennas, such as for 5G, they require a clear line of sight, which means trees are cut. Since wireless systems work on shared radio frequencies, interferences like weather can impact wireless bandwidth, but that's not so for fiber. Fiber also doesn't carry health risks. So given these facts, we have 4 requests: to replace broadband references in the bill with FTTP, fiber to the premises; to add a section that places a stay on attachment of 5G antennas to poles and towers until proven safe and reliable, including, this is important, including 4G antennas that can be upgraded to 5G via software. To amend section 19 to facilitate fiber optic only, and to amend section 19 by removing reference to One Touch Make Ready. I'd like to leave you with a question. How will Vermont respond to President Trump's admonishment? He said, quote, "The local areas are going to listen to us very, very strongly," end quote. Or the FCC's assertion that, quote, "It can't let unnecessary barriers to broadband deployment keep us from leading the global economy," end quote. Now, I would suggest, we would suggest, that the health of children and all Vermonters, the trees, and our property values are not unnecessary, and that we are worth more than the FCC's plastic mannequins. And that, yes, healthy citizens are the greatest asset still any country can have.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
So,
Yeah. Yes.
I would surmise you're making the case that given the choices between the two types of services that we should embrace, one is clearly your preference.
Fiber. Fiber to the premises. Yes.
And that you would caution us against the section 19, which surrenders some of our independence in making decisions regarding our choice of delivery system.
Yes, yes. The way it's written now, it would bring Vermont to heel. Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.